Okay, to start out this video about how I unload my solo skiff, just wanted to give a shout out to Brent at OEX and bigwatersedge.com, obviously the big website, so you can get a lot of information that they sponsor, and Kayak Fishing Supplies, their online web store, so that you can order anything you want and actually have it delivered, not having to drive down to the store if you don't need to. So this is my navigation light. Everything that I tend to put on here that isn't the Scotty mount is a Yak Attack Mighty Max XL. It's basically some kind of a gear track plastic, but I like it because they're flush and allows me to not have something that gets scratched. I've had the aluminum ones raised up before. So these are the mounts here. Have a lot of them in different sizes. This is so I can put on different accessories such as camera mounts. You can use it for a lot of other things, cup holders, you name it. My Scotty mounts I put here so I could change out different kinds of rod holders. These I've had for years but never used them on my kayaks, and now I find that they work great. Best for trolling. You're trolling that way you can keep the rod out in front of you. You can rotate this over like this. You insert the rod, locks up. You're going along, you can keep an eye on your whole rod and reel, and all you have to do is go on this model is just grab the front part of the rod, pull up. That one there is locks a little differently, but both do the same thing, so you can change any angle you want on there. Camera mount on here, my Lowrance with the ram mount. I had this on my kayak. These extremely important, so if you use a different grab handle, no problem, but I found that these little 9-inch Hobie H rails work great, very important for staying on the seat. This thing's, when you're moving and any change in direction catches a low wake or something, it can change directions and you can easily fall off. So it's very important to have something that's a good grab handle. At the beginning I started out with a rope you could grab. Well, that only works really great on the front to back movement. Anything side to side you could be easily off, and I mounted my second one on this side, which also protects the on and off switch for the bait tank from getting turned off, just because I already have my paddle on that side and didn't really have the extra room to put it over there. So, but since I'm right-handed, right side is where I tend to grab, and your left handle is usually grabbing the engine mount over there, or the tiller for throttle and steering. So gas tanks mounted. I just got a bungee cord on it. I never got around to putting anything more different, but hey, this thing has worked great. It's even kept this on when this solo has turtled a couple of times on the surf. Accidentally stopping to tell stupid people that are swimming in the landing area not to be there, and then get caught on a wave because I wasn't paying attention and ended up rolling it in 2 feet of water. So anyway, a lot of different things here. This one mount here, that was one of the rollovers. I got to replace it. They're like 20 bucks, but I made these brackets so that I can remove them off the XLs, and works super great. Putting my cup holder there because I did have it on a low mount here, and one time when I fell off it, I lost one of these because it knocked it right off of the low mount that was on there. So now the base is on there. This seat is awesome. Bought this because Nick bought this for the one he had. They're called Deckmate. Comes with a padding just like this. It's swivel. There's a base on it and super comfortable. Folds down and removable, but a lot lighter weight. And trying to remember what the place is I bought them. I'll try to find a link for it, but it was online again, recommended by Nick online. Got it, and I think the seat was like about 40 bucks or less for the seat, and then the base, the one I bought from them, was 10. And so anyway, easily removable. So I'll go over a little bit better detail when I get this off, but I did put it on the truck here just so I can show people. That's, everybody seems to be interested in how do I load and unloading. And yeah, the thing is a bear. Reason I never bought a PA was because they weigh so much. Well, this is 10 pounds more without the engine, and if you leave the engine on everything, obviously you got another over 200 pounds. So I devised this, and that's just 2-inch ABS drain pipe with the elbow, and they're just bonded on there with a regular PVC cement. I put some bungee cords on here to keep them in place. Drilled a little keyhole opening on there so that I can keep them on there. The bungee helps keep them in place. Rope is just to keep them from spreading apart too far, and they are lined up to go on basically the 2 tracks, the outer edge, so that they'll guide. And the same thing when you line it up. Now this, I put all these little eyelets so I can put my fish bag And then I use this to keep one from, if it somehow came off the hooks, I don't lose the bag. Navigation light, which is awesome. And getting all this stuff. So basically I'm just going to go over detail right now, film the unloading process, and then do the loading back up with the winch device that I made. So since I'm here, not on the beach, I can put some carpet here to help protect the stuff. One item that hasn't been mentioned, and I've noticed other people have had this issue, is if you are doing your own plumbing for the live well, you're going to need this kind of a little L at the bottom for the pump coming down at the bottom in the channel of the solo skiff. Very important. One thing I notice is that other people, including the shops, when they install this, don't cut this upper lip that goes onto the pump shaft itself shorter, and then this sticks out too far down here. If that's the case, when you slide it onto something, whether it's your cart, the bed of your truck, or anything, this will hit because it will be protruding lower than the hull, like by about this much, and that's not a good thing. Nick almost had that break off, and it could have, you know, caused a big issue if you're on the water. A lot of water would get inside your hull, plus just the ripping thing, where it damages the pump and everything. So very important, cut this upper lip shorter so that this elbow does not protrude any lower than the bottom of the hull of the solo skiff. Okay, real important. Check it if the shop did that for you, or if you are doing it yourself. Make sure that this is not too long. Once it's in there, this can't be removed without eliminating this elbow, just because there is no space to turn this. When you install these, you need to have this in the channel, and then you actually are rotating the pump housing itself to get it in and tighten it up. So again, real important that this does not stick down below the hull itself. Okay, this is the process of unloading. Once you got it lined up on the beach, get down here, you slide it down here. This driveway is at an angle because I'm on a hillside, so it makes it a little bit more awkward. Then slide it down, usually on the sand, and then it just slides right off. Easy as pie, and you're on the water. Take those off, go park the truck, and got your rods on there, and the thing is ready to go. So this is the winch setup that I made to be able to not have to leave it on the truck or have it mounted in any way where it gets in the way. I did have to reinforce the upper part of the bed, putting a square rectangular tubing in the backside bolted on to help support the pull, the weight that you're obviously putting, since the sheet metal isn't all that strong on the side of the beds. Are not intended for pulling. I didn't want to mount it way up on the crossbars on top, and I didn't want any lower. Thought about using a power winch, but I thought that was just starting to get a little bit too elaborate and running power wires and everything. So this has got an angle iron on here, and welded a couple of little tiny pieces of metal here, little tabs, so that it'll catch the lip on the bed and keep it in place. And then this is meant to keep it, so I'll just show it when it's on there. I use a strap one. Didn't want a cable because they get twisted around, they pull, and then they cut in. The strap can keep it flat. I'll show it better when I have it laying on there. I just put this strap that I have tied up on the rear bar. Once this is all stretched out, I hook it onto there, and that's how I wind it back up. So I just make it again, it's the lip, so that it slides on to the top part here of my bed, and then I can slide it down. A little easier when you're on top of the bed. And once it's in place, so once it's on there, again, the thing is on the edge of the bed. Got the 2x4 to spread the weight and spread it out to the back. I'm great. It's starting to rain here, so I better hurry up and finish this video. So again, the weather not cooperating lately, but I have it up there, put it on freewheel, so I can now pull this strap, and then I can run it down here. And I just get it back to this point where I can now line up those rear stanchions with the two ABC pipes, or ABS pipes. And once that's hooked up, I'll do that in a minute here, and then I'll wind it up. So driveway being in a slant and not the thing's trying to pull up. That's why I put the bungee cords, try to help keep them in place up here so that the forces don't move it up. In the sand, it's never turns to be a problem with that moving. As you see, they're lined up. Got the strap on there. Put the hook on the up so it doesn't catch anything on the way up. Got it up there. Now it's just a matter of, you know, winding it in. So anyway, I'll put the camera on the tripod and finish this part of it. Okay, so here we go. Hey, shout out to Heroes on the Water. Hope you guys out there support that. Okay, so here's the other side. Okay, that's my light on the rear, and got the paddle on there. Again, this got gear tracks. I made those brackets to be able to use this. Again, just a matter of loosening those nuts. And then the bolts, the carriage bolts I used on there, I had to flatten out little corners just so they go into slide track. And just loosen those nuts, and I can remove those if I don't want them on there. The deck material, I just bought a sheet on eBay, 50 bucks, and then cut out the pattern myself. So seat was installed slightly off center because I saw everybody was sitting that way. Then after using it for 7 months, I realized no, especially surf launching, you want to be centered. And really important, again, this swivel seat is because when you're getting on and you're not centered, you can move this so you still have support in your back, keeping you from falling over, which I did once. Big wave came up, solo went no problem over the top while I'm still in like 3 feet of water, but the wave was like about 4. And as they went way up and it came back down the other side, I fell right off the side because the seat was still like this and I'm sitting sideways, and so I fell over the side. So again, it's easy, much better having a swivel seat. Leash, this is from Nick's, a tip that Nick told me about. It's basically a surf leash on here by Woodwave, and you add that to the one that comes with the engine. You can put it in your ankle, which I did for quite a while, and now I just put it on my PFD, so that if you fall off, it kills the motor. That way you don't lose, you know, you're not watching your solo go away and leave you behind. And these are Scotty mounts. I do have friction mounts on here. Always have, even the kayaks, I use them that way, because that way you can just tighten them up, put them at the angle you want. And the nice thing is you can move them around to where you want it, whatever angle you want. Do some trolling, anything like that. And they do, you find the other way, and they're removable. And now they're not on there. And again, they could be moved over to the front, left here, and I got one on either side. Used to use them for trolling and just setting the rods and everything. That's just for carrying the rods in the back. For fishing, they're always mounted on the front. And there's my 7 Ti Lowrance. I love that thing, it's great. And used to carry a little boom box over here, but I found that it was actually transmitting the bass sound through the hull, and I picked it up in the video, and I didn't want any extra noise for fish, so now I just use some wireless Bluetooth earbuds that have a little leash to keep them on my ear. I had got ones with hooks to keep them around your ear. The other ones kept wanting to fall off, and I had to use my buff to keep them in place, but even that wasn't working too good. So again, all rod holders. So again, and then just take off the bungee, you pull those off, slide the solo to the back. I put a ratchet type strap going from the hooks in the back of the bed through here and around the front of the transom on either side, and then one across from here across the bow. And the live well, I did all this rigging myself. The hardest thing in this, besides installing the pump inside, was drilling the hole here and not being careful, because enlarging this to put the drain, you have to be real careful because you start getting out past the polypropylene over there. And And then obviously you got the hatch that I put on there in the front in order to plumb the aerator part. Inside of here is just, turn this over, and oh yeah, everybody seems to forget Coast Guard, very important. And obviously since you've got a gas engine, you definitely want that fire extinguisher. So they're really inexpensive, little kitty one. And then there's the basically the Tsunami 500 pump running on 6 bolts, or actually I run on 12. Well, I tried the 6, but the pipe on this is not like a kayak. The distance that this line goes all the way to the front, 6 bolt, you have very slow flow, not good enough. So you definitely need to run a 12 volt battery on a solo skiff for that. And I have an even bigger one that I run. There's 2 boxes I have, but anyway, you need to have a much bigger one. The TIs use up a lot more power. Anything with a bigger than 5-inch screen eats up power. And then I switched to these kind of connectors, much better than the deck ones I used to use. They stay on much better. So anyway, one for each battery. And then I put my little cooler bag in here, my dry bag, you know, a bag with my other stuff. And there's bolts through, everything stainless steel and all the bolts on it. So, yeah. Very important to pump. You want that in case you have it. I just mount it here where it's easy to reach. You don't want it inside the hatch. Be real hard to get to. And then the net is just because you got to have them when you're fishing to be legal. I've never used the damn thing, but it's there. So, and I just put it on the bungee so they're there in case I do need to reach for it and grab it. Yeah, I think that just about covers everything. Can't think of anything. If any guys have any questions, anything additionally you want to see, let me know. Right, tight lines, dudes. So one thing I did forget is the cart I made. Basically, you know, different construction guys can have them. Some guys that have PAs or something might already have one. It's just something that lines up at the same height as the bed. So here I can just back up my truck, slide the solo straight onto the truck without having to do any lifting or using the ramp or anything here. This was what I used at the beginning, but this is very slow and then requires resetting because of the length of the cable. So that's why I got that strap winch. Bought that on eBay. It was like $27. Again, the strap one is much better. It's like a 25-foot strap. So it'll more than reach where I need to pick up the solo off the sand. And just again, if you get one, try to get bigger casters. Those were the bigger ones that they had at Ace. But when you got the solo with all the weight on here and it starts to want to catch these little cracks on my driveway and stuff, it's not easy to move around. So I would opt out to finding much bigger casters. All 4 are swivel so that you can move the thing around. When I do bring it home and clean everything out, I do have this that I put this where the hatch is, leave it open, keep any rats from climbing in there, and then one that I put on my little twist and hatch, Hobie one on the front. That way the hull inside can air out, make sure there's no moisture left in it. Okay, can't think of anything else at this time. So that's it. Again, tight lines. So one important thing I forgot to mention in building this ramp, which is basically a 10-foot section of drain pipe cut in half. So you got 2 5-foot pieces with the elbows. You got to reinforce it with wood inside. I happen to have 2 handles that came off an old wheelbarrow, so I ended up using those. But I wasn't going to intend to, as at Home Depot, usually they sell these poles that are round. Can't remember if it's like 1 3/4 inches around, somewhere in that neighborhood, but they're made for like in the fencing section. They come pretty long. You can probably buy, can't remember if they come 10 foot or so section. So if it is, you just buy one, cut it in half, and then you shove it inside. Otherwise, there's no way you would be able to lift this up with the engine. In fact, when I did it at the beginning, I was doing it, removing the engine, a lot of extra work. Just the weight of the solo being cranked up started to bow these alone. So by themselves, they won't hold the weight. But now that they're reinforced with wood on the inside, they're a little bit heavier. But again, they're just carried on top of the solo like this. And then I put them inside my truck so that nobody will steal them when I park it. But anyway, that reinforces it. I just leave the engine as you saw. Everything is left under tank, the whole thing. So you don't have to unload anything other than whatever's sitting too high if you got any racks on it. But anyway, very important, reinforce the ramp part.